Most definitely, most definitely. And even in my bad times, I always was a believer, right? Even when I wasn't always doing the right thing, I always believed that he had my back regardless, right? So I will definitely stay spiritual because I thank God all the time for sending me that book. And I always give him the credit. I don't care how many podcasts I've been on, how many people ask me about my story. I'll always say, hey, I asked that CEO why he threw that book on my locker and he told me that he just knew I'd read it. It was no other person who could have sent it to me because he could have gave that to him.
Welcome to another episode of Fund, Flip, Repeat. We are your Oklahoma and Texas private money lenders. And today, Ryan, I'm going to pass it right off to you so you can introduce our guest for us today on today's episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Joel. We have a special guest today, Mr. Phil Brooks. So Phil is somebody that I know here doing deals in the local DFW market, but there's a lot more to Phil and his story than just doing fix and flips in DFW. So Phil, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate you being here today, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh, you're welcome, man. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for y'all. Thank y'all for having me on. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had some conversations in person, whether it's, looking at a property together or, at a meetup group together. And you have what I would consider not just an interesting story to tell in terms of your life and your journey, but I view it as, a powerful testimony as well. What are you willing to share with the listeners in terms of who you are as a person and kind of your background?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm going to give it all. Right. I don't hold back when it comes to my story because I don't know who it can touch. Right. I used to be shy and say people might judge me, but it has helped more than it has had any backlash or any judgment, so I'd rather be able to reach more people than hide and worry about judgment behind it. Right. So as y'all know, my name is Phil Brooks. I'm from Buffalo, New York, but I currently reside in Dallas. I moved to Dallas because I wanted to be closer to the real estate that I currently purchase and manage with partners. Not only that, I do flips here in Dallas, but the landlord laws here and the landlord laws back home in New York was horrible, right? So it was like night and day. Yeah. So it was like a no-brainer. I sold all I had left in Buffalo and moved to Dallas. But sort of my background, people ask me how I got into real estate, what made me want to get into real estate. It did start when I was younger. I do come from a very, very poor background. So when I was younger, my dad used to have his own construction company, church and stuff. And he used to take me and he'd do these new remodels and new builds. And I used to get excited about it, right? But I never wanted to do the work. He's trying to make me do the work. I hated doing the work part, but but he did make me learn it and actually it excited me because the way it used to just be dirt and all of a sudden it was a new property, right? So, but what happened was he something with taxes, didn't pay the taxes. He lost, construction got tough, hit a rock bottom, and he lost everything. And when he lost everything, he couldn't cope with it. So he turned to drugs because he couldn't provide for his family. He didn't know how to react to losing everything. So at that time, I'm a small kid. I'm just going back and just giving my background so y'all can kind of be aware of I didn't come from money, right? Sure. So during that time, I was a kid. We had to move in with my grandmother, and her and my grandfather had a 2-story house, and it was upstairs, downstairs. They did own it, but the funny thing is we moved in, my aunt, her boyfriend, and her kids moved in. So it was just a bunch of people living in one house, poor with no money, but a lot of love, right? Yeah. So not to drag it out, I used to be at my friend's house. We lived in a poor neighborhood. So I used to be at my friend's house playing their game because we couldn't afford it, right? Playing their games, doing whatever, hanging with them. And they parents sold drugs. And guess who walked through the door? My dad, right? To buy it because he couldn't cope, right? So guess who I didn't want to be like? Didn't want to be like my dad. Guess who I wanted to be like? I wanted to be like the people they had everything to me. They had everything that I wanted, all the gadgets, the clothes and stuff like that because I grew up so poor. Didn't even have my own room, right? Slept on like a couch. But during that time, I ended up trying to be like them, ended up getting caught and going to prison. I got caught with drugs and money, right? And I ended up going to prison. And the crazy part about it was, even though I couldn't see my family when I wanted to, go to the bathroom, shower, whatever, I do whatever I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, I couldn't do that. I still had the same plan to come home to do the same thing because that was my identity. People started looking up to me. They started seeing me because at one point I felt.
So when you say the same plan, the same thing, what do you mean by that? I just want to clarify that.
Came home and started selling drugs and everything. That got me. I came home thinking about how I could get better at the same thing that got me there, right? So funny, me and my friends and us, we laugh about it now because I always was a reader. So I used to read like Kingpin books. Well, I'm in jail, right? I'm reading Kingpin books, documentaries, and things of that nature. Try to get better at the same thing that's making me suffer. To one day, for no reason at all, the correctional officer threw this book on my locker. And I picked the book up, looking at it. I give him like a side look because I'm like, why would he throw this on my locker? It's 1,000 other inmates, everybody, he just throws it on mine. So I toss it. I go back to reading whatever the crap I was reading at that time, right? So one day, I ran out of things to read, and I picked that book up, and it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Changed my whole outlook on life. I threw all my other books in the garbage and started reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, all Robert Kiyosaki books, Richest Man in Babylon, all these different self-development books, financial books. I just switched my whole outlook on life, just picking up that book. Oh, one of the great things of this story, right? So I went to the correctional officer, right? We never talked before ever, unless he called me for mail or a visit or whatever. Like, we never really had real conversations.
Yeah.
And I asked him, now I'm talking to him because now I'm curious. I'm like, why did you throw that book on my locker? And he just looked at me and said, I just knew you would read it. It was sent from God, right? God sent it to me. I'm a Christian. I grew up, like I said, my dad had his own church. I grew up in the church. So I believe in the higher power. He sent me that. And so I talked to the correctional officer. I'm like, because he was retiring. He was 40 years old. He was retiring, and come to find out he had 7 tennis salons and a bunch of real estate. Right. So I'm like, man, now we never talked before. Now we having deep conversation.
Yeah.
The best part of that story, though, I used to talk to my dad on the phone about all the stuff I was learning, what I was going to come home and do, and how it's going to change. When I came home, my dad looked at me and he said, you sounded different, so I wanted to be different. And he went cold turkey, never touched another drug again, got his church back, giving back to the community. That's when I knew I got to stay the same. I can't change. I cannot go back to my previous life. And I got a job. And another thing about that was the same person I told you that walked through that door and I said, who I didn't look up to, he became my hero that day because I never seen no one do that. I never seen no one, because I grew up in my life. Hey, if they start doing it, they gone forever, right? That's just in my mind sometimes, right? Just because of what I seen.
Sure.
And to see him go cold turkey, he didn't go no rehabs. He just said, my son sound different. I want to be different when he come home. That was like, I need to do this. Came home. This is how I got my first Now, this is the first year of my first experience in real estate. Came home. I never had a job before. So now I got to get a job. I got to change. It's a different mindset. I come home, I get a job making $9 an hour. And I was working at this place called...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You can ask.
Oh, I was going to ask where you're working, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a place called NutriBlend, right? It's a factory, and we made protein powder. And my job at that time was putting a
one
scoop
second, though.
in the protein.
I don't want to cut you off there. I do want to pause there because I don't want to forget, because I want to circle back to the book, right? Because I want to unpack that a little bit.
Yes.
Because I think it's important, right? As you're telling the story, I'm like racking my brain. I'm like, what book is he going to say? I'm thinking like the Bible or something like that. And you say Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's funny because like so many, you listen to any like bigger podcasts or any type of real estate investor. I mean, you can almost attribute like Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad to like 90% of real estate investors said, hey, that was the book that like sparked that in them. And that was a book for me too, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's like my origin story of like getting excited about real estate as well. But for you, what is so interesting, Phil, is like, yes, real estate, but it was like the only way to say it is spiritual, right? Because like you could have taken that book and applied it to the kingpin empire, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. You could have applied that to the drugs, like, you know, just build, like have somebody work for you, but in a different avenue. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it not only sparked that change, but yeah, there's a spiritual change there. So that's super interesting. So what was that like, I guess? Can you dig deeper into that? Is that how it went, or like, because it wasn't just that book, right? I mean, it wasn't just that book. It had to be something more, right?
It was the catalyst.
Most definitely. And even in my bad times, I always was a believer, right? Even when I wasn't always doing the right thing, I always believed that he had my back regardless, right? So I will definitely say spiritual, because I thank God all the time for sending me that book. And I always give him the credit. I don't care how many podcasts I've been on, how many people ask me about my story. I'll always say, hey, when he asked that CEO why he threw that book on my locker and he told me that he just knew I'd read it, it was no other person who could have sent it to me, because he could have gave that to anybody.
Are you guys still in contact today?
Right. No, so I know his face clear as day. Like, he already retired before I even came home and stuff like that. But I know his face. I know exactly how he looked. Like, if I seen him, I would hug him, right? But I don't remember his name. I probably could find that out, right? But I don't remember his name at the time.
I think one thing that's so powerful about your story too is, it's like you said, right? Once you get caught up in that world, it's so hard to get out. And it takes someone with the courage to break that chain and change the family tree and change the family legacy. But it typically would start with you in this scenario and then carry down to the next generations. But it went both ways. It went back the chain to your father and down. Yeah. And that's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It might have went down. It might have been my dad, all his prayers and things of that nature. Like, it might have went down to me, and he was just surprising me when I came home. You know, I don't know. God got his ways, and I just thank him. And I'm happy to be able to sit here and have these conversations with y'all, because if not, I probably wouldn't be, right? And
that's awesome.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. So you're out, you're working $9 an hour. Let's pick back up there.
Yeah. So it's at a place called NutriBlend, and it's a protein powder place. And, you know, the protein bottles, and my job was to put the scoop in the bottle. I don't know if y'all familiar, but if y'all ever had a protein powder bottle and y'all got the scoop, I'm probably the one who put it in there too. So just so y'all know, I might have done my service. But no.
Yeah.
So it was the assembly line. So my job at that time was to put the scoop, then you got somebody with the lid as it go. Yeah. And it was a long, long day. So I'm talking about going from making some life-changing money to $9 an hour. It was like, this is going to be a journey. Let me tell you. So when the machines used to break down, they used to send everybody on the line to the break room, right? A mechanic used to fix the line. And that used to make the time go by even slower, right? So what I used to do, instead of going to the break room and sit around and talk about nothing, I used to follow the mechanics around and watch how they fix the machines. So when our machines would go down, I used to hurry up and go fix it. So we wouldn't have to go to the break room, sit around and waste time. I was making $9 an hour, and the mechanics was making like 40, right? But what that did, y'all, it helped the company with downtime. So they was able to produce more. So it was able to make more money, right? Because by me able to hurry up and fix a machine, the mechanic could fix another machine instead of having to come to this one. And that was keep that line going, and, you know, as things go. So 90 days later, never having a job before and everything. And people used to come to me, ask me for help. And I used to always, you know, I don't mind helping. So we had got a new manager, and he used to see that. 90 days later, never having a job before, $9 an hour, I got promoted to third shift supervisor, running overseeing about 50 people, making about $70,000 a year. At the end of that year, I bought 2 houses from the auction. I was able to save some money because I was surviving on $9 and dollars. I was able to save money with the $70K a year, right? I bought 2 houses from the auction. One was $2,500, one was $5,000. That's when they was cheap here back home in Buffalo. First lesson, one of them burned down to the ground. The next day after I bought it, I didn't have no insurance.
Oh no, man.
The one for $2,500, guess who did the remodel? It was a hard lesson. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't okay at that moment.
Sure.
Now it's okay. I'm good with it now.
Yeah, get insurance. Get insurance on every property.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. But the one for $2,500 I bought, guess who did the renovation?
You did.
My dad.
You did. Awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
I had the house for over 10 years. I finally sold it when I moved to Dallas. Yeah, I finally sold it when I moved here. But I had that house over 10 years after he did the remodel, right? This full cycle. That was my first real estate experience of a house, buying it, fixing it up, renting it out. Other one burned to the ground, no total loss. Even had to pay the city to clean up the debris. The other one I remodeled and rented out. And I was making about $1,000 a month. And I probably put like $15,000 into it after I bought it for the $2,500. So I had my money back in like 18 months. So because it was free, it was a cash deal.
Yeah.
So that was my first real estate experience, going to the auction, bidding, and when actually that ain't happening today, not in my market, but that was my first real estate deal.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
So to take it further, because now currently I'm doing commercial and I also do flips as well. So how I got into that, my goal was to buy one house a year for the next 10 years, retire off the income, the rental income.
Right.
And just live off the 10 houses, right?
Sure.
So I met a mentor and he asked me, why buy one house a year for the next 10 years when you could buy an apartment complex with 10 apartments in it and you'll accomplish your goal in 1 year that you set out to do in 10.
Economies of scale. Right?
Boy, did my brain get to twirling, right?
Yeah.
1 year, So that's when I looked into commercial real estate and everything. And I had joined this community called, I don't know if y'all mind if I share it, because it's a good community that I had joined that taught me about underwriting commercial real estate. It's called the Deal Room. This one, I appreciate them. They my mentors for Live Jennings and Ying Smith. They taught me all about commercial real estate operations, the writing, raising capital down to refinancing and eventually selling it, right? So I did join the Deal Room. So how I learned and got my first deal, my first 4 deals in commercial real estate fell through. But let me tell you some of my experience. What made me, after my mentor told me, why buy one a year when you could do the apartment for 1 year and accomplish your goal? I was still working a job. So I didn't do it immediately.
This is in Dallas now, right? Sorry, this is in Dallas now?
Nope. I'm still back home in Buffalo.
You're still back home
in Buffalo. That's where my mentor was. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't move to Dallas to 2022.
And what made you seek out a mentor? Or did that happen more organically, or did they find you? Because this is super, super important, right? Because this is something that like is super important to me. And this is like the number one thing I tell anybody. You want to do something. If it's real estate, if it's, flipping burgers, if it's making bread, whatever. It's like, if it's something you're passionate about, it's something you want to do, like find a mentor. So I love that this is where it's heading, and I'm not surprised whatsoever. So how did that come about for you, this mentorship?
It's a funny story, right? So my first time ever getting a mentor, I went to sign up for this real estate meetup. And, when you go and they sell you on the program, they teach you some stuff about real estate, and then there's a program you join. And it was just about brokering loans and stuff, because I was trying to figure out how I can get money to actually do deals. So they say they 100% finance you, anything, you could broker your own loans. And so I'm like, all right, let me join this program. And that's when I seen somebody actually walk you through something, and you can ask questions to when you don't have the answers. So it was just great having a mentor, right? So this mentor I mentioned before earlier that told me about why buy one, he was back home in Buffalo. That meetup was in Jersey. My mentor I met, it was funny how we met, because I signed up for this program looking for private investors or private lenders, right? And it was just this, I bought this list. It was online. It was like this list, and and supposed to have private lenders in your area or private investors in your area. And I'm like, all right, let me buy. It was like $20. I'm like, man, it's worth a shot. And they send you a list of these phone numbers and emails, and they give you like these scripts.
Of course.
So he was only one on the list that had a 716 number, and it was a Buffalo number. So I'm like, let me see. Let me give him a call. So I called up and I said, hey, my name is Philip Brooks. I heard you lend to people on real estate deals like myself, lend to real estate professionals like myself. I like to tell you, if possible, I like to tell you about myself and some of the current things that I'm working on. And he said, yeah, send me what you got. Send me what you got. And it was like, send me. And I had a few deals because I learned do little software, how to run ARVs, right? It's a little program. They say, oh, this is the ARV. So, and then they have this list that you can call. So I was doing that. So I got a few deals. So I'm sending it to him. He actually liked it, one. So I met up with his daughter. We went to go see it, but he didn't like it at that time. But I called him. I said, hey, because his daughter told me all about him at that time, because I didn't have no clue that he was doing. He was buying 20 flips a month on a bunch of real estate over probably 1,000 units and stuff like that. I had no clue, right, at that time. That next day, I called and I asked him what he meant to me. And he said, if you find me a deal, we a partner on it. If you can find me a deal, I'll mentor you. Just so happened, I ended up finding the deal later on that day. We didn't close on it, but he decided to mentor me because he seen that I was at least willing to go out and look and put in the work.
I think that's how he became a
mentor.
Yeah, because I think leading with value is super critical, because, just going and saying, hey, can you mentor me? But you got to show that you're willing to do the work, just like you did, right, Phil? And you're going to put yourself out there and you're going to bring somebody a deal instead of just, I say this, it might be controversial, but you don't want to be like a vampire, right? And just suck somebody's time with nothing in return. Time is so valuable. It's such a big asset. So you to be, show this individual who obviously has done it a lot is a big deal. And something that's interesting too, you said in the very beginning when we started the episode is, you're more of a shy person, but you overcame that. And as you're telling your story, like, I'm not hearing that so much. So I'm just curious how you've overcome that, because like what I'm hearing is like, you're just going for it. Your $9 an hour job, you're following around the mechanics, you're getting after it. Then you're getting the list. You're just making the phone calls. You're finding the deals for this guy. You're asking for mentorship. So like, how do you overcome that shyness if that's the case, or somebody listening too, you know what I mean? Because that is, I get where that could be a hurdle as well.
I attached it bigger than me, right? I was changing people. In my mind, I was changing people's life around me. And I wasn't just doing it with words. I was doing it because I kept telling them, I'm about to do this real estate stuff, right? And it's different than just saying it and doing it. So it's just doing the reps. So yeah, still first cold call and when I say first 20 cold calls was like shy and get hung up on, but it's just doing the reps.
Right.
Doing the reps, man. So
you got to mess it up.
I feel like in anything, it's a numbers game. So I knew I was only going to get better by putting in the work and doing the reps. Here I am talking to you guys. So we're going to get beat up. Sometimes it's this business, right? You're going to take the blows. Sometimes you're going to throw the blows, but it's going to be some back and forth, right? But so if it's not, that's why I try to do it more than just for me, right? I try to touch, for when I say me, I'm talking about money, right? Maybe money or something like that. It's for money. Don't get me wrong. We're going to make money, but it's not about just the money. It's about what I can do with the money, right? What is going to provide for my family.
Yeah, money's just a tool.
Me.
Yeah.
It's just a tool. So, and I got big dreams for them. So I got big dreams for us, for my partner. So at the end of the day, I know if anything going to work and they looking at me, it's going to start with me, right? So that's how I got comfortable. My first podcast, telling my story, I would have ran. I would have had the camera off, but it's just the reps.
It is the reps. I love that. That's gold. That's a golden nugget. Anyone listening, you just got to do the reps. I tell a funny story. When I was doing my first like wholesale deal, I had no idea what I was doing. I was in this house. There's an elderly lady. I'm doing my little pitch. I'm super, super nervous. I get through it, and I kind of thought I did a good job. And at the end of the appointment, the seller appointment, she puts her hand on my shoulder and she says, "You tried. You did it. You did okay." And like, talk about humble pie. I was like, oh, man, I suck. But you know what? I just did it again and again and again and again. You just got to put yourself out there. You got to do it. You got to be able to make yourself look silly. And, you know, it's fine. It is what it is. And it's part of the journey. And you look back and have fun with that stuff. But so let's fast forward a little bit. Where are you at now, Phil? What are you getting after? Where are you at today? What's on the horizon for you? Next couple of years. Would love to kind of hear what that looks like for you.
So the current goals, is to flip about 60 houses a year. I'm more focusing on the midterm money right now, more short term, and I still buy commercials, but I was looking to buy like 10 commercials a year. I dropped that down to maybe we could close one every quarter, maybe 2 a year. It just depends. Because there's a lot that go into commercial, and there's a lot that go into stabilizing it, and there's a lot that even going into buying it, the due diligence stages of it as well. But
and that's fun, primarily multifamily.
Yes, the multifamily. I do own mobile home park, RV park. I'm doing me and partners as well. When I say I'm doing, we doing a 50 lot mobile home park development. Well, 50 lot development, because we decided we was going to develop it, but all we doing is bringing in the roads, the paths, the utilities, and everything, and we getting bought out by a developer to do the infrastructure. So I did a dab in different areas in real estate when it comes to commercial, but I do, because to me it's just the same. It's just running the numbers, underwriting it, making sure you just got to do it a little bit differently with different assets. I love it. It's fun. So yes, I currently own over 300 units. I started at zero with no money on my own, $0. So when some people be like, man, some commercials true, you could really do it with none of your own money. Yeah, you can, but it's going to be a lot of sweat equity, right? You're going to have to be valuable in another way if that's operations, if that's finding a deal, if that's, doing a rehab. I don't know. I don't do rehabs like myself, but I'm just kind of giving people ideas on how different ways they can get into a deal with none of their own money.
I think
right? And people ask, well, how do I find a deal?
I really like that you said that, Phil, because you hear it, I think, all too often now, and you hear it from, maybe some gurus. And again, I'm not trying to be controversial, but you say you can do real estate with no money down, so on and so forth. But what you're highlighting is really important is, yes, that's true, but you have to bring some value to the table, and sweat equity is a real thing. And it's not like, hey, you can do a deal with no money down and it's going to be no work and it's just going to be easy breezy. It's like, hey, you can just like leverage money and it's just like sit on the sidelines and you flip a house and it's like HGTV. Like there's a real thing underlying here. That's just the truth of it. So there's the reality, right? And then there's the, sometimes what we hear and see. So I appreciate you saying that, because it is important. It is important. And I hear kind of how you've been sharing of like leading with value, and that's super critical. So love that, man.
And that's why I'm here. I appreciate that, Joel. That's why I'm here, though. To try to add as much value in the world as I can. That's one of my goals, because I come from a place where I never would have thought this was even possible, right? When I say not even possible, and I know so many people that I grew up around that wouldn't even think of the idea of doing it, right? Because they just feel like it's just so out of reach. So now them same people, they see me on social media, they see me, and we come from the same dirt, the same environment. I just chose to find a different path out of it. But now they reach out to me, tell me they proud of me. They're me older now, right? It's eventually somebody got to change, man. So they be wondering how to get in and learn. So it feels good to reach someone, because I know not trying to say that even if you're not in the streets that you can't be far gone just working every day, coming home really really miserable, right? Not doing what you really want.
Yeah.
But to see that I could touch so many people that I know sometimes be so far gone in what they believe already. Some of them don't even think they're going to make it past a certain age. And to be like, no, I want to do something for my family. I want to change. If you could show me, sitting here talking to you guys is all worth it. It's worth the time. It's worth feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's just worth it, you know?
Awesome.
That's
well,
awesome.
Man, I really, really appreciate it. Ryan,
Well,
do you
hey,
want to take us out?
Yeah, I want to kind of bring us home here and just hit on one last thing, you know, and this is one of the reasons I was excited to have you on. You know, we're still at the beginning of our relationship, and I'm super excited to see where it goes from here, you know, working with you. But one of the other things I want to highlight about your story is you had so many pivotal points in your life that you hit on today where you would have, I think it would have been reasonable for someone else looking in to say, oh yeah, it makes sense that at that point he gave up. Or at that point, he just was resigned to this is my lot. And some of those things were out of your control. Some of them were in your control. What happened with your dad? You know, you made a poor decision. And then you ended up making a poor decision, and you could have let that derail your whole life, but you didn't. And then when you first started in this journey, you could have just expected someone to come in and do everything for you in that mentorship, but you brought what you had available at that time, which was you, the most valuable asset that you could put into that relationship. So there's this pattern of behavior that you have displayed in terms of, hey, life is going to throw some really nasty curveballs at all of us, and you chose to do something about it, take control of it in conjunction with your faith with God, and that's what led you here to this point today. And I think that's a really powerful testimony that people need to hear. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you being willing to share vulnerably, right? It's not super comfortable for a lot of folks. And so I think it's really important that we're willing to share our stories with one another so that it's fostering an environment of encouragement, you know, and someone today probably needed to hear your story. So thank you for doing that. Now, this show, I think most people probably just listen to it on audio. But if you're only listening or if you're watching this, you need to know Phil's beard game is like really on point. So when we went out to dinner, I used to have a beard about that size. I don't have it right now. So for the final thing, Phil, for guys that are trying to figure out like how to keep best care of their beards, what beard tips do you have? Let's round out with that.
It is cleaning a lot, Ryan, and I use cocoa butter. Cocoa butter.
Cocoa butter.
Cocoa butter works. It makes it shiny, silky, and soft, and it grows.
Yeah, it's
a glorious beard.
That's no joke.
I've witnessed it. I witnessed it in person. So you heard it here on Fun Flip Repeat. If you're a guy and that beard's starting to get out of control, cocoa butter. Phil Brooks said it. So thanks, Phil. Is there anything that you would want us to share with our audience in terms of like ways to connect with you, social media, website, anything like that we can put out there for you?
Yeah. So, you can find me on Facebook, Phil Brooks. I'm on Instagram as well. I'm Phil Brooks, LinkedIn, Phil Brooks, and everything. So that's where all my social media, you can reach out. I'm always returning inboxes and stuff the best way I can if you have any questions. But
awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes too.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Awesome, guys. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, Phil.
Pleasure, fellas. I appreciate it.
All right.